Fellas, my power got knocked out this weekend. This is why I wasn't putting out videos. My home state of Louisiana got hit pretty hard, although I think a few other places got hit even harder. But we good now. We're back. Your man Aztecross is here, ready to talk about a subject that I've been avoiding for as long as I could. And that is, of course, about broken weapons and exotics. Things in the game that have very little to no counter. And when I say little to no counter, I mean quite literally little to no counter. And I know we like to jump up and we like to say weapons are nasty. And I love saying that, but it's hard to say that about these weapons because nasty is a very positive term. And really, it just comes down to fine comb tweaks. Little small adjustments to these guns will make all the difference in the flow of Crucible, amongst some other things, which we talked about in our State of the Crucible video last week. And we'll probably be revisiting the term skill-based matchmaking, because skill-based matchmaking helps none of this. Actually, it just brings these broken things to the forefront even more, resulting in every lobby having at least one of these. So first up on the list, and by the way, there is no particular order of these, as they are just all very disgusting to go against, is of course Errantil. Now, Errantil was one of the first fusion rifles in that high impact department that we finally reviewed. I loved Errantil. I think it's a fantastic fusion rifle. It hits 48 damage per bolt, and for the most part, it requires only 4 bolts to get the one-hit kill. Now, a lot of people jumped up and was like, whoa, man, what is this gun that's mapping me from like 40 meters or something? Yes, Errantil is very good, but it has an 860 charge time. So in order to be really good with a weapon, map awareness is key. Secondly, pre-charging and working your corners correctly plays a major role here in the effectiveness of Errantil. Until the perk backup plan was discovered. Everything that I just mentioned that widened that skill gap when it came to using one of these high impact fusions just got squashed because of this trait right here. Grants reduced charge time and increased handling speed for a short time immediately after swapping to this weapon. Now, I love backup plan on other fusions for sure, but on Errantil, hands down, yes, fellas, I know we may be in a shotgun meta, but this is broken. And the only reason why you don't see more people using backup plan fusion rifles is because they are still kind of rare. You still got to hunt for that god roll. And the gunsmith is not exactly handing out Errantil on the regular. And I know we have things like Wiz and Rebuke. Then we just recently had another year 1 fusion rifle brought to us. Those are good fusions, but Errantil is hands down the best high impact fusion. Not saying you can't get kills with those other high impact fusions, but Errantil has a very clean aesthetic to it, as well as a number of good stats. It's just all around very solid. And then when you slap on something like backup plan, my god, is it disgusting and almost impossible to counter. Now, realistically, the best way to fix this is just to remove backup plan from all high impact fusions. Now, I know some of you are gonna riot. I can feel the anger right now, but that's the only way to really balance this. Either that, or they're gonna actually end up nerfing the bolt damage, requiring at least 5 bolts to get the kill. So at that point, you just gotta weigh the pros. You want a fusion rifle that can secure the kill in 4 bolts, which of course is what gives this fusion rifle and all high impact fusion rifles a big edge, or require fusion rifles in this archetype to kill in 5 bolts, but you could still keep backup plan. I don't know, guys. Those are the 2 options. To me, the easiest option is just not to allow backup plan to roll on high impact fusions. Is it fun killing people in a fraction of a second? Yes. At pretty much any range? Absolutely. And as we begin to go further and further into this list, just know, as broken as some of these weapons may be, they are fun. I gotta hand it to you, fellas. They're fun. Unless, of course, you're on the receiving end. Now, moving on. The next weapon on this list is, of course, our dear Lord of Wolves. Oh, man. How many times are we gonna have to say that this weapon is broken? Now, the difference between Lord of Wolves and, say, something like Errantil is broken on both PC and console with something like backup plan. It has very little to no counter. Lord of Wolves, I believe, is only truly effective after the nerf on PC. It can still lock down kills on console, but a lot of people on console, considering the recoil as well as field of view, do not use Lord of Wolves. Lord of Wolves can still kill at almost 14 meters. 14 meters! The equivalent of something like Chaperone, yet it requires no precision shot, no precision whatsoever. Every one of these kills you see in front of you is Lord of Wolves simply just spraying. And that is something that you're going to see more and more apparent with all these weapons as we get further into this list, is that the skill that is required to use these weapons effectively is almost non-existent. Now, Lord of Wolves Wolves used to kill at almost 20 meters. So granted, yes, it was more broken previously, but it had a change all the way back in Season of the Drifter, where the perk Release the Wolves could be activated anywhere by simply holding the reload button. This of course doubled the DPS, which was great for PvE, despite it getting nerfed inside of PvE because people forget that. Lord of Wolves actually got a damage nerf inside of PvE to compensate for this Release the Wolves change, but whatever. But Lord of Wolves was still doing the same damage inside of PvP, so simply allowing for something like Release the Wolves to be activated at a press of a button made this shotgun one of the best weapons overnight. Now the obvious changes to many of us was actually just to reverse the change, allow for it to do more damage inside of PvE like it was doing previously, but of course require something like Release the Wolves to get a kill in order to proc the trait. That was not the case. Bungie did nerf it, but it went from killing at 19 meters to 13.5 meters. But I don't think that's what aggravates us about Lord of Wolves. Chaperone also has some pretty crazy range, and with something like Roadborne, it can stretch even further. The issue is that Chaperone requires skill, which is the opposite of Lord of Wolves. Lord of Wolves requires no skill, no accuracy, and on PC, it is one of the most difficult weapons to counter. About the only way you can actually counter Lord of Wolves is to never let the Lord of Wolves user see you, and hope to God that if he does see you, he just sucks. But even a potato can get a kill with this gun, and that's what aggravates us about Lord of Wolves. It's not the kill range, it's not the fact that it's overall one of the most lethal weapons in Destiny 2 at the moment, it's the fact that its ease of use is so potato friendly that I just don't know who this weapon is meant for. And when you give this weapon to an already skilled player, and what I'm seeing more and more here recently with Lord of Wolves is people actually going invisible with Lord of Wolves. You see where I'm going with this, guys? Rage-inducing weapons and loadouts. Trust me, there are many weapons out there that I could say are approaching territories that I would consider to be broken. They're walking that fine line. Lord of Wolves, though, has been sitting nice and cozy in broken country for a good 6-7 months. And that one small change to the range is not gonna be enough to affect it. I also think that that change was ludicrous. Lord of Wolves was not a good weapon on console. So then Bungie making that change to Lord of Wolves just made it worse on console, when all they had to do was reverse the Release the Wolves change. All I can think about is that somebody at Bungie, somebody high up, man, really likes Lord of Wolves. Don't lie to me, Bungie. You like Lord of Wolves, but this ain't it, guys. This is not it. The weapon is too user-friendly and way too damn lethal. Moving on. Next weapon on the list. Whew, I'm about to lose many of you right now. Last Word. Now, before we get into this, understand, obviously, another weapon more oriented to the PC crowd. Last Word does seem a little more balanced on console. Hell, even the last time I used it on console, I talked about how I did not like the fact that I couldn't use the weapon reliably while aiming down sights. Now, of course, if you're a freak of nature and you got magic thumbs, this is not an issue for you. I just felt like the weapon should have had that same level of consistency that it had back in Destiny 1. Now, on PC, everything I just said just goes right out the window. Last Word is every bit as effective when firing from the hip or when aiming down sights. Now, Bungie obviously wants us to use the weapon from the hip more, giving us the exotic perk Fanfire, where you gain an increase in accuracy and reload speed when landing successive hipfire damage. But on PC, I think most of us just say to hell with that, as we really don't need increased accuracy. Hell, the weapon is already pretty accurate. But that's not what makes Last Word such a difficult weapon to go against on PC. No, what makes it an annoying weapon to go against is the fact that the weapon has not only a 0.53 second time to kill value optimally, but it also has a 0.8 second time to kill value in its body shot. This weapon does 51 damage per body and shoots 225 rounds per minute. So what this results in, considering that 0.8 seconds is pretty much faster than most other primary weapons, a lot of us just spam body shots. Do you see me being accurate here? Now, this is obviously a PC issue, but it's very apparent to me that the majority of the Sandbox seems to be more balanced in favor of controller players. I know most of you are like, whoa, majority of the player base is on consoles, but we've got a pretty dead even split. I think the last time we checked back in October when the game went free to play, I think it was like 44% was on Steam. So what, you've got 56% on consoles? That number is only going to edge closer and closer to 50-50, as in you have a good portion of your player base on mouse and keyboard. So what I'm proposing is that the game is not necessarily balanced in favor of only mouse and keyboard players. All I'm saying is the same thing we said last week in the State of the Crucible video, is at some point the game will most likely need to be balanced in two separate separate sandboxes, depending on the platform, allowing for last word to have a 0.8 second time to kill value in 4 body shots is completely acceptable for a controller player. Completely acceptable. It was the same back in Destiny 1, and I'm okay with that. But for a PC user, a mouse and keyboard player, landing 4 shots in 0.8 seconds is cheese, baby. It's no problem. They can do that match in and match out, thus resulting in last word being almost a weapon that is impossible to counter. You can counter it, but man, you gotta be finessing. You gotta be doing some crazy stuff. You gotta definitely keep range in between you and that last word user. But again, at any moment, that mouse and keyboard user could just start aiming down sights, and it's not difficult to land that crispy 3-tap. Even though you don't see me doing it a bunch here, the only reason why I'm not stopping and aiming down sights and actually taking aim for precision shots is because I'm not required to. And similar to the Lord of Wolves situation, last word has way too much ease of use for mouse and keyboard users. Now moving on to our next weapon on the list, and if I haven't lost all of you, I'm probably about to lose you now. The mountaintop, baby. Somebody's got to say it, guys. Mountaintop is absolute cheese. Now the gameplay you see in front of you was actually me doing a build last week with Devil's Ruin on the Warlock class, taking to the air and getting some sidearm kills. Now a great weapon to pair here, especially with a sidearm, is of course this grenade launcher. Now a huge reason why I like this is because of the trait sticky grenades. I throw down a couple grenade shots, I kind of surround my exit points so that if my enemies do sneak around me, those sticky grenades will go off. A fantastic utility weapon. And if that was what Mountaintop was, simply a utility weapon inside of PvP, but of course hit the same damage inside of PvE, because I'm not trying to take away what it does inside of PvE with spike grenades, I would be okay with it. The problem with Mountaintop is not only is it like the best utility weapon, but it also can get the easy one-hit kill from insane ranges with little to no skill. Now, I'm not saying this is an issue for console players. I actually like the adjustment that was done to Mountaintop months ago, where they actually increased the target acquisition of Mountaintop. I thought it was a fantastic change for controller users. It made Mountaintop more user-friendly. The problem is another situation where we have a sandbox change that was issued that, yes, slightly benefited the controller user and the console user, but substantially benefited the mouse and keyboard user, thus resulting in me popping shots off across the map and getting one-hit kills when you know for damn sure a regular grenade launcher would require a lot more accuracy as well as travel time in your shot. So that's the thing about Mountaintop. With that micro missile perk, it immediately gets to the enemy. Immediately, which would be okay. But not only does it immediately get to the enemy, it immediately detonates, and it does so much damage that it just immediately kills. It's impossible to counter Mountaintop unless the user in front of you sucks or you're a stompy hunter. Like, to be honest with you, if I go up against a bunch of Mountaintop users, throw in some stompies and actually get on the hunter class and just make them miss. But for my warlocks as well as my titans, you boys are shit out of luck. And it's not that we're not mobile on those classes. We are mobile to an extent. We're just not as agile as a hunter, thus resulting in our warlocks and titans being pretty easy prey, for the most part, to a half-decent Mountaintop user. Again, similar situation to some of the other weapons we've mentioned on this list, Mountaintop presents an ease of use that throws many other grenade launchers out the window. Now, to be honest with you, if Mountaintop was just simply a utility weapon, a weapon I just ran around throwing sticky grenades on the ground, I would actually be okay with it. And if it required me to swap to a primary weapon to get the kill, I still think this would be a great weapon. The problem with Mountaintop is that it doesn't require that. It does so much damage, whether on impact or even in a sticky grenade form, that just shooting somewhat relatively close to the enemy is normally going to get you the one-hit kill, thus requiring no cleanup from your primary, as well as diminishing that skill gap that should be required for this weapon. Hell, it's a pinnacle, boys. A pinnacle. Most of the people that get this weapon, if you have this weapon, you worked hard. As in, you don't need a gun that gives you freebie kills. Mountaintop hands out freebie kills. It's the kind of weapon that you would give to the deaf, dumb, and blind if you wanted them to still play this game effectively. Now, finally, on this list is actually not a weapon. It's an exotic, and that is, of course, Controverse Hope. Now, I know, my warlocks, you're about to lose it, man. You're about to lose your minds, and I don't blame you. Why would I pick on you guys? All the broken exotics out there, yes, you are right. There are exotics out there. One Eye Mask in the previous sandbox was broken, and it was dealt with. Stompies is approaching broken territory. I'm sure at some point we will address it, but at this moment, from my experience, handheld supernovas are so damn annoying to go against. And it's not because of handheld supernovas. It's because of the exotic Controverse Hope. as it actually allows you to resist incoming damage while charging your void grenades. Now, in theory, this sounds great, but in Armor 2.0, where we can easily drive our discipline down, combined with other perks like Enhanced Bomber, having a grenade on the Void Walker class is not a hard thing to do. You could pretty much have one in every single engagement. And handheld supernovas are lethal as hell. They can kill up to 19 meters. And as lethal as that is all on its own, as it requires very little to no aiming, and it can multi-kill. That's another beautiful thing about handheld supernovas. It can get multi-kills. As lethal as all of that sounds, I would just categorize it as nasty. But when we combine it with Controverse holds, it has little to no counter. I see a guy come around the corner and he's charging a handheld supernova. I rush him. I shoot him with a shotgun. 9 times out of 10, I normally die before reaching him, or if I do reach him, I shoot him point blank just to find that he survives due to the damage resistance from Controverse holds. Not only that, he procs things like Dark Matter to get his ability energy back, as well as his health back, which results in him having a grenade back normally by the time I spawn up. Again, this would not be a problem. Handheld supernova is very strong, and I would be okay going against it, but when combined with something like Controverse holds, it has very little to no counter. Unless you just literally get in a lane and you stand there for the rest of your life with a sniper rifle and you demand that warlock to face you in open territory, that's about the only way you can beat them. That or if you have a friend. And that's the thing, a lot of these broken loadouts, you gotta have a friend with you. It's like, hey man, there's a really bad guy in here. He's got a Lord of Wolves. Can you help me kill him? Friendship, created in the most dire of situations. But what happens if there's 2 guys in there with Lord of Wolves? Or wait, 3 guys in there with Lord of Wolves? What happens when 3 people are rocking Controverse holds? Or 3 last words? Or 3 mountaintops? Or 3 backup plan Errantills? You see where I'm going with this? You see, right around the corner, we're supposed to be having the Pinnacle PvP mode trials return. I don't know how it's going to return, or even when it's going to return. All I know is that if these things are still around, and if there is no limits set in place, either through the sandbox or through the game mode, all of these things will become a talking point week after week until they are finally dealt with. And I can promise you, Bungie, you would rather deal with them right now before ever releasing something like trials back to us. So guys, those are my thoughts on the things currently breaking the game. I'm gonna be honest with you, console for the most part has some issues, yes, but I feel like for the most part, I can work around them. I know some people are still complaining about the old school meta, Lunas and Not Forgottens, Dust Rot Blues, Warcliffe Coils. All of those things to me still have counters. These are the list of items though that, man, they just have little to no counter, and it just makes our lives miserable. If I'm in a rumble match with one of these, I'm already thinking bad thoughts about that one player. 9 times out of 10 though, it is all of these in a single rumble match. All of these. And it really pushes you to use the same exact things, which is why skill-based matchmaking makes these situations even worse. We're going to talk about that here in the next video, or one of these videos. Fellas and ladies, let me know in the comments below what you think. Which one of these weapons are a problem weapon to you? Did I leave something off the list? I think small, fine tweaks to all of these will go a long way in adjusting these weapons. I think the only thing we forgot to include, and I'm really walking the line on this, is removing things like quick draw on high impact shotguns like Mindbenders. There's so many high impact shotguns I would love to use, but I specifically don't use it because you got things like Mindbenders that can roll with quick draw. And when you have something like quick draw on the shotgun, all of the things like map awareness, spatial awareness, timing your draw between your primary and your special, all of that goes completely out the window, because now you have a shotgun that can kill with ease at 9 meters and can be immediately drawn. So to some extent, Mindbenders does actually fall on this list. But I didn't want to piss everybody off, right? But hey man, I guess we might as well. If we're going in, we're going in hard. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.